Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us today. Our topic is holiday depression, the holiday blues, and how to stave them off, and maybe even help other people who may be struggling with mental health issues this time of year. My guest is psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Amen, founder of the Amen Clinics, home to the largest database of brain scans for psychiatry. Dr. Amen, thanks for being here. Great to see you as always.
Thanks, Lori. I love being with you as always.
So the holidays, it's Christmas season, and for so many people, it's the happiest time of the year. It's supposed to be a time full of joy and celebration, and yet so many people struggle with depression now more than at any other time during the year. Can you explain that?
Well, we go into the holiday season with a time change, and the time change all by itself increases the incidence of depression. And then we start it with Halloween with bad food and a lot of sugar, which increases depression. And then Thanksgiving, again, often not the best food. So our bodies are inflamed when the sun is not out as much. And then add to that your family. And families are messy. And if you grew up in a stressful family, and a whole bunch of people did, that is increasing your stress during what is supposed to be, it's another cause of depression, when things don't live up to what you think they should be, it can be problematic.
So I wanted to backtrack a little bit to the first point you made about food. So a lot of people do not associate unhealthy food, sugar in particular, with mental health issues. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So sugar is pro-inflammatory. It means it increases inflammation in your body, and inflammation is clearly associated with depression. And what's unique for the last couple of years with COVID, a lot of people don't know that COVID, if you get COVID, you have a 25% increased risk in the next 4 months of having a brand new onset psychiatric illness like anxiety or depression, again, because of the inflammation that COVID causes in the brain. And so bad food, the fear around the pandemic, the virus itself, all lead to an increased risk of depression.
So when you talk about food and how bad food can actually trigger depression, kind of sort of lead us into depression, what should people be eating and avoiding?
So there's a linear correlation between the number of fruits and vegetables you eat a day and your level of happiness. So at a minimum, you should try to get 5 servings of colorful fruits and vegetables. And then healthy fat, olive oil, avocados, nuts and seeds, wild fish, all decrease the risk of depression. I often say the weapons of mass destruction are highly processed, pesticide sprayed, high glycemic, which means foods that quickly raise your blood sugar, low fiber, food-like substances stored in plastic containers. So those are the things you want to avoid as much as possible. So, have the turkey with the green beans and a salad, and you're going to feel amazing. But if you go with mashed potatoes, the bread, the pumpkin pie, you're not going to be feeling quite so well.
A lot of people, when they're depressed, eat those kinds of foods. What do you say to people to help them resist that temptation?
Yeah, well, it's a lie. It helps you feel better in the moment, but then you feel worse an hour later. And another thing we should talk about is alcohol, because there's a whole increase in alcohol the last 2 months of the year. And alcohol is a depressant, helps you feel good now, but clearly not tomorrow.
So, we talk about family issues and alcoholism. That is a huge issue. What is your advice to people, who need to go home for the holidays and, they're going to be with family members. They have bad memories of their childhood, and there's probably going to be a lot of alcohol involved. What's your advice?
Make sure you have an escape plan. If things start to ramp up and you're dealing with past childhood trauma, and this is not a small issue, there are over 30 million children of alcoholics in the United States. So 10% of the population is struggling with this issue. And so if that's true, just know when you start to begin to feel anxious, have somewhere else to go. And you can totally be polite about it. I'm going to go see a friend, but having a little escape plan. And if you know it's going to be conflict, it's okay to make other plans. People often will go home to toxic situations out of guilt when it's clearly not in their best interest.
Would you recommend, for example, somebody go just for a very short visit, maybe just on Christmas Day, rather than spending, every single night together for a whole week in the same house? And how, do you recommend things like hotels instead of actually being in the same house?
Absolutely. What's the best predictor of behavior? It's past behavior. How people have been is generally how they're going to be, unless they do important things like get help, get therapy for the issues that they have. And you need to be your own good parent. You need to be the one that doesn't operate out of guilt, but what's really best for you? Because once you're an adult, there's not a lot of other people looking out for you.
And now what about loneliness? We know so many people, this is their first Christmas season without their significant other, husband, wife, perhaps a child, a death in the family, and they're so struggling with loneliness this time of year.
Volunteer. It's so important. There's actually a study out of Baltimore where they looked at brain scans of people who volunteered and those who didn't. So they did baseline, separated the two groups. The group that didn't volunteer, that were lonelier, their hippocampus, the major memory structure in the brain, actually became smaller. The group that volunteered, that got out of themselves to help other people, that part of the brain grew. So loneliness is a massive problem, and the pandemic made it much worse. But do what you can, either through your church, through your work, through your community. Be helpful, and in that way, you'll be less lonely, you'll be more purposeful. That will help your brain.
All right, this is fantastic information. Couldn't come at a better time. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with Dr. Daniel Amen, talking about holiday depression and how to stave off those holiday blues. Stay with us. Welcome back to Healthy Living, and we are continuing our discussion with psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Amen about how to stave off those holiday blues. And Dr. Amen, you talked about volunteering and eating right and trying to avoid alcohol. Can you talk about the value of exercise versus the couch potato? I love to sit on the couch and watch those Hallmark movies, and maybe that's not the best idea.
Well, if you spend an hour a day doing that, have fun with it. But if you're spending 4 hours, clearly bad for your brain. And I often say, walk like you're late. There's a study comparing people with depression. One group got Zoloft, a really good antidepressant. The other group walked like they were late for 45 minutes, 4 times a week. And what they found was at the end of 12 weeks, they were equally less depressed. At the end of 10 months, the exercise group was way better than the antidepressant group. So it doesn't have to be where you go to the gym and you lift weights for 2 hours, although not a bad idea. It just walk and walk like you're late. But even so, you go, okay, I don't have time. Walk as fast as you can for a minute and do that 4 times a day. That's actually been shown to have significant health benefits. And so intense, short bursts of exercise can be really helpful. Plus, when it comes to the brain, my favorite exercise is table tennis. And a lot of people, they're going home for the holidays. They played ping pong growing up, their tables. If you spend half an hour playing, it activates a part of the brain called the cerebellum, which actually then turns on the rest of the brain. So coordination exercises like pickleball or tennis, table tennis are really great for the brain. Now, beer pong is not great for the brain.
Okay, glad you clarified that, because a lot of people would use that. Hey, this is good for my brain, beer pong. When you talk about doing ping pong, I love that. I have a ping pong table and I haven't played for, I can't even remember how long. So is this something that people should be doing every day to see results? Or like you were talking about the activity and the results, how often do you have to do it to get those results?
Well, if you did it a couple of times a week, it would really be good for you. And if you really want to have a better brain, go to one of the USA table tennis clubs. There are clubs all over the country, and get skill, like get good at it. Because as you knew, learning obviously is good for the brain. But if you get skill in table tennis, it activates your whole brain in such a good way.
That is fantastic. Switching gears a little bit from activities to the way we think. And we know so many of us struggle with stress at the holidays, especially financial stress. And we're talking about inflation so much these days. Everything costs so much and there's such pressure to buy. What is your advice regarding spending for the holidays to try to mitigate stress?
So drink less, because you'll spend less. When you drink more, you actually damage your frontal lobes. And so you make impulse buys, which is a real problem. And it's really good to go, so what are my financial goals? And does this purchase fit the resources that I have and my goals? The front third of your brain, largest in humans and any other animal by far, is called the prefrontal cortex, involved with forethought, judgment, impulse control. It works really well if you've slept. It works really well if you've eaten right. It works really well if you avoid alcohol. Alcohol drops activity in that part of the brain. And then you want to give it goals. Okay, what do we want with our money? And is our behavior getting us what we want with our money? And so if money is an issue for you, make things for people. I mean, I know the gifts I get, somebody's drawn something or somebody's taken a picture and framed it. They're not expensive gifts. They're gifts that show you thought about me.
And I'm just going to throw this out there because I know my family isn't the only one. What do you do if you feel enormous pressure to spend a lot of money because your relatives sort of judge how much you love them based on how much money you spend on them? My family can't be the only one that's like that.
Yeah, well, I would completely resist it, because if you give in to that, you're teaching them they can manipulate you with guilt and envy. And that's a very bad thing. I always say we teach people how to treat us by what we tolerate. And so if you give in to that pressure, well, they've got you. And I'm not okay with that. And I have 6 siblings and 54 grandchildren. My mom does, so nieces and nephews. There's no way I'm going to spend that much time buying gifts, right? I mean, I'd be so focused on it. I take a couple of people that are really important to me, give them something I've really thought about. But, you know, if you get into the trap of, oh, I have to spend a lot because that means I love you more, it's just a lie that will bring more stress. And, you know, talking about stress is often based on the lies we tell ourselves. I call them ANTs, automatic negative thoughts, the thoughts that come into our mind that we never really truly evaluate. Oh, you spent this much money, so you love me. That's a complete lie. That love isn't about money. It's about connection. It's about thinking. It's about mutual support. It's about listening. And so learning to, I call it kill the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. So whenever you feel sad, mad, nervous, or out of control, write down what you're thinking and just go, is that really true?
Wise words, wonderful advice. All right, Dr. Amen, we're going to take a quick break and be right back to talk more about how to stave off the holiday blues. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Healthy Living, and we are talking with psychiatrist Daniel Amen about holiday depression. And of course, Dr. Amen, a lot of times folks will go talk to their doctor and say, I'm depressed, and out comes the prescription pad. What do you think about antidepressants?
337 million prescriptions were written for antidepressants last year. I'm just not okay with it. I mean, sometimes they're necessary and they're helpful, but during the holiday season, we'd already talked about there's less sunlight, head to head against antidepressants for seasonal depression. Bright light therapy has been found to be more effective. You can get a bright light therapy box, spend 20 to 30 minutes in front of it in the morning, increases your mood, your focus, your memory, your energy. Head to head against antidepressants, omega-3 fatty acids have been found to be equally effective. Head to head against antidepressants, as we talked about, walking like you're late, 45 minutes, 4 times a week. Head to head against antidepressants, learning how to not believe every stupid thing you think will help. So be very conscious of what you allow in your brain. Make sure you're eating right, taking the right nutrients. And my favorite supplement besides omega-3 fatty acids is saffron. There are 24 randomized controlled trials showing it's equally effective to antidepressants. Simple things. Now, if you do these things and you're still really sad, talk to your doctor about an antidepressant. The problem is people don't do the simple things first and end up on medication, and the medication changes your brain to need it in order for you to feel normal.
So the saffron supplements, what dosage and would you recommend?
30 milligrams is what is in the study. And there are a number of saffron supplements that I'm a fan of. And you want to do the natural things that don't have side effects. One of my favorite things about saffron is it increases memory. It's pro-sexual, where a lot of the antidepressants sort of decrease libido and sexual functioning, which all by itself will make you depressed.
Absolutely. So you say 30 milligrams once a day?
Yes.
Okay. And then you talked about the omega-3 fatty acids, fish oil, I suppose. What is the dosage you recommend for that?
So about 1,000 milligrams combined of EPA, omega-3 fatty acids, and DHA.
And one more thing, you talked about the happy light. Love that. And we know that sunlight often has that wonderful vitamin D. Do you recommend vitamin D supplements for to help stave off depression?
So you should know your vitamin D level. Normal's between 30 and 100, and you should push to get it around 80. And that has qualities to enhance your immunity, which is obviously important today, and your mood.
Perfect. All right, we're going to take one final break and be right back with Dr. Daniel Amen. Stay with us. Welcome back to Healthy Living. We are speaking with Dr. Daniel Amen, psychiatrist, about the holiday blues, holiday depression, which is so rampant these days. Dr. Amen, unfortunately, we're running out of time. Any final words on this topic?
You get to choose how you spend the holiday season. Do it in a way that enhances your brain and enhances January. Think ahead. So many people let themselves go in November and December, and then they suffer through January. I actually ran a group, Lose Weight Through the Holidays, where people lost 2.5 pounds the week of Christmas. You do not have to celebrate the birth of the baby Jesus by doing bad things.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Amen, where can people find out more information about this topic and also about you?
They can follow me on social media at doc_Amen, then go to amenclinics.com or get one of my books. My most recent book is called You Happier.
Love that title. That's what we all want. All right. Well, once again, Dr. Amen, thank you so much for your time and your expertise, not just now, but over the years. And we so appreciate it, especially this topic, which is so important to so many folks. So thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Lori.
And thanks to you for tuning into this episode of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson, and we'll see you again next week. Bye now.